Distinguished colleagues, thank you for the invitation to be part of this virtual summit. This has been a challenging year for everyone. What can we learn from our experiences and build smart education for a more equal, safe, and resilient future? But first, a word about my organization, the Commonwealth of Learning. COL is an intergovernmental organization that works in 54 Commonwealth member states, which span all regions of the world. Our mission is to help Commonwealth member states and institutions to use distance learning and technologies for expanding access to education and training. In this presentation, I will begin by highlighting the key issues that emerged during the pandemic. I will then look at some of the potential futures of education that lie ahead, and will conclude with the essential elements that need to be part of smart education for the future we want. The pandemic disrupted the entire education system at all levels, with lockdowns, closures that affected over 95% of the learners worldwide. What were the main challenges? During the pandemic, the greatest challenge was related to digital infrastructure, lack of access to devices, connectivity, electricity. Teachers were not prepared for the sudden transition to online learning. Existing inequalities in both developed and developing countries were further exacerbated. In a survey conducted at Stanford University, which is a rich university, 16% of the undergraduate students did not have access to the internet for half the time, and 60% of students from low-income homes did not have a private space for study. Over 63 million teachers were impacted by COVID-19. Even in the rich OECD countries, there's evidence that only 60% of teachers had some training in ICTs. The vulnerable are most impacted in crisis situations, as we all know. It is estimated that the numbers of school dropouts will increase, with 11 million girls not likely to return. A study in the Netherlands records a learning loss of about 3 percentile points, with higher losses among students from less educated homes. The only silver lining in all this has been the global acceptance of distance and online learning. What would have taken years of advocacy happened within a matter of days. And a recent study in the UK found that the majority of higher education students rated the quality of online learning as excellent. And I think in China, online learning is much more accepted today than it was earlier. So is this the foundation of smart learning for the future? Futurist Wendell Bell identifies 3 types of futures: the preferable future, the probable future, and the possible future. Let us consider each one of these. First, the preferable future points to a more desirable state. Sustainable Development Goal 4, which aspires to ensure equitable access to quality education and lifelong learning for all by 2030, is the global community's preferable future. But 5 years down the line, how close are we to achieving this future? Trends indicate that even the slow progress achieved before the pandemic is likely to be further set back. SDG 4 aspires to leave no one behind. 15% of the world's population suffers from some form of disability. Yet only a fraction, sometimes less than 1%, have access to education at any level. Similarly, gender parity in education continues to elude us. Even before the pandemic, there was a learning crisis where many children were going to school but not achieving the required learning outcomes. For example, half the 10-year-olds in low and middle-income countries were unable to understand a simple written sentence. So what would be smart education for the preferable future? One that is based on equity, inclusion, and lifelong learning for all? Second, the probable future. This is what is more likely to happen based on current trends. What are the current trends? Developments in technology will continue to drive changes in the way we teach and learn. And we know that technology adoption has been further accelerated due to the pandemic. Artificial intelligence is being mainstreamed in education. Intelligent tutoring systems use AI techniques to simulate one-to-one human tutoring, provide timely feedback, all without the presence of a human teacher. Machine learning helps to analyze and summarize the discussions in online courses so that a human tutor can guide the students towards fruitful collaboration and discussion. AI-powered systems can offer personalized assistance to learners. Chatbots are already proving to be fairly effective teaching assistants, right from Georgia Tech in the US to the Open University of Malaysia. Assessment has been a great challenge during the pandemic. AI-based assessments can constantly provide feedback to learners, teachers, and parents about how the students learn, the support they need, and the progress they are making towards achieving their learning goals. In South Africa, mobile-based assessments were used to reach those in the most remote shanties. So what would be the smart ways to assess and evaluate going forward? The third is the possible future, something visionary that may or may not happen. The climate crisis is one of the defining issues of our times. Over the past 40 years, the number of climate-related disasters globally has tripled, a trend that is expected to continue. The education sector, from primary to tertiary, contributes to both direct and indirect emissions with an impact on environmental degradation and, of course, associated economic costs. The Open University in the UK compared the carbon emissions of ICT-enhanced and face-to-face courses and found that distance teaching models had significantly lower environmental impacts. Call conducted a similar study in Botswana and found that the average carbon footprint of the face-to-face group is nearly 3 times greater than that of the distance learning student. So is distance learning an element of smart and resilient education in a possible future? The pandemic has taught us to prepare ourselves for all 3 futures. All these are global challenges: achieving education for all, harnessing the potential of technology, and mitigating the impact of climate change. So what will be the smart education for the future that can address these challenges? One solution suggests itself from the past when open universities were established to increase access to higher education. In the Commonwealth countries, there are 31 open universities, which cater to nearly 5 million students every year. China has a national open university and several state open universities, which reach millions of students. Since purely online options don't work for everyone, this blended approach of open universities can address the issues of access to reach our remotest learners. Smart education must also provide a high-quality learning experience. The ultimate objective of quality assurance is to ensure not just access to quality learning, but also to student success that leads to opportunities for livelihoods. This means going beyond looking at completion and retention rates to supporting graduates to become employable. And there's a difference with employment. Employment means that is, they are equipped with the skills that can lead to employment or entrepreneurship. In short, skills that prepare our students for the uncertain future that lies ahead. Smart education must also be affordable. As research tells us, there is no significant difference between the effectiveness of face-to-face and online provision. On the other hand, there are significant cost savings, as this study by In-Sung Jung shows. While face-to-face costs per participant were $6.7, the same training was offered online at $3.7 with comparable outcomes, nearly half. Research also indicates that people with disabilities prefer distance learning because it's convenient for them, as they can study at their own pace, place, and time. Distance learning offers content in various formats so that learners can read, listen, or watch lectures. Distance learning is also more affordable as it costs significantly less than campus-based instruction and offers a degree of anonymity where students with disabilities can interact with professors and peers without feeling discriminated at all. In order to mitigate the impact of climate change, smart learning must promote the 4 R's. We must, in the education sector, reduce carbon emissions, raise awareness on disaster preparedness, reskill our learners for a green future, and build resilience for the education sector. Smart education must harness the potential of technologies to increase access, improve quality, reduce costs, support inclusion, all with a low carbon footprint. Smart education must draw on the experience and expertise of high-quality, open and distance learning. To sum up, smart education is about the 5 E's. Education that is enjoyable, engaging, efficient, effective, and ethical. First, let's take enjoyable. Enjoyable learning helps the retention and transfer of knowledge to long-term memory. Making learning engaging requires pedagogy as well as innovative applications of technology. Learning needs to be efficient in terms of time and resources. Smart education must be effective and lead to livelihoods and responsible citizenship. Smart education is also ethical, for it must address issues of privacy, cybersecurity and safety, and equity. So on that note, let me thank you for your kind attention and wish this summit every success.